A very warm welcome to this King Yoga Experience evening, streamed from the Ageless Temple in London, on the topic of the Ageless Ascended Masters of Earth. This is a truly fascinating subject, and I really hope that you'll enjoy finding out more about these mysterious masters who work behind the scenes. During the course of this 1 hour, I will guide you through some mystic visualizations and also through a contemplation of an initiation of ascension, as it was witnessed by Dr. George King, founder of the Ageless Society. But first of all, what does it take to reach ascension? Ascension is not the result of one life. It is a result of countless of lives, countless of experiences, and countless of lessons learned. For example, Dr. George King, who I mentioned earlier, he founded the Ageless Society. Just after the Second World War, he really threw himself into the practice of yoga. And he would do that for 10 years, 8-9 hours a day. He would practice various forms of yoga. Hatha yoga, the physical postures, mantra yoga, chanting, pranayama, the yoga breathing, kundalini yoga, and so forth. So he would do that for 10 years, 8-9 hours a day, as well as having a full-time job. And as you can imagine, he gained some amazing psychic abilities. He was already psychic before he started his yoga practices. But through this, he was able to levitate, for example, or project from his physical body and visit other realms of Earth, and also visit other planets in this solar system. Just going back to the different realms associated with this Earth, we are on level 1, which is the physical level, and below this there are also 4 levels where people can go after they passed away. Sometimes they are referred to as hells. And above this physical level number 1, we have 6 other levels or realms of existence, where people can go after they passed away, after they leave their physical body behind. And on level 6 is the realms of the masters, and level 7, the vibrations are just too high for this level to be inhabited. So the masters would go there for periods of meditation and so forth. So Dr. King was able to raise Kundalini into the higher chakras and really attain deep states, mystic states. For example, he mentioned that once the Kundalini is in the throat center, fully operational, then the adept is able to project from the physical body. And when the Kundalini is raised higher up to the Christ center, the master, who's now a master at this stage, has great visions, either back through time or into the future, or even have a vision of things happening on other worlds. And then the master can even enter a deep state of meditation, also known as samadhi or nirvana. He truly becomes a knower. And then Kundalini is taken even higher up into the crown center, and the master can enter cosmic consciousness. Is one of the ultimate results of meditation and can only be attained in the very deepest of these states. And the journey we all have to take, these 9 major steps, are outlined in this fantastic book called The 9 Freedoms, which will take us through ascension and even beyond that. Dr. King's experience of cosmic consciousness is brilliantly written up in this book, and he speaks of the interrelationship of all things, of all life, of all things. For example, in this state, when he focused on a rock, it sprang into life, it breathed, it had feelings, it had disappointment, it had soul. Because all life is one, expressing itself in multitudinous ways in order to gain experience of and control over matter. And in this same book, Dr. King, speaking of cosmic consciousness, he said that the adept is no longer able to detect outside stimuli through any one of the 5 lower senses, referring to the chakras. Thus he is in a physical state near to death. In this state, all the inherited powers of the adept are lodged in a crown chakra, and cosmic consciousness takes place. So first, the adept has to be able to attain or enter cosmic consciousness at will before even ascension is possible. And even then, the adept may still need to go through further experiences. Again, taken from the 9 freedoms, it says, ascension will not be brought about by even service in any 10 lives. If suddenly the dawn of humanitarianism breaks over an individual life stream, that life stream then has to work for many lives in service, in spiritual ways, and all of them, before even cosmic consciousness is possible. So when the Master reaches its pinnacle of advancement on this earth, he or she can walk through the golden gates of ascension, the very final initiation that this earth can offer them. And then the Master can break away from the wheel of rebirth. He or she is no longer bound to this earth by karma and can take on an experience cycle on another planet in this solar system. And we are told that these planets are Mars, Neptune, Jupiter, or Pluto. But this choice, whether the Master moves on to another planet for further experience, or stays on this planet taking on an ascended body, is not based on likes or dislikes, but more based on the ability that Master can offer to this planet, and therefore they volunteer to stay on, which is a fantastic sacrifice on their part, I'm sure it is. So let us now, I would like to take you through some mystic visualizations. I'll ask you to close the eyes for that, sit up straight in your chair, legs uncrossed, so the feet are touching the ground, palms facing down on your knees and fingers spread out. And close the eyes. Make sure you relax the body. Just quickly scan through your body, relieve any tension, and relax. Allow gentle peace to fill your whole being. Gentle, gentle peace. Take a few deep breaths in. Expand the lungs as you breathe in, and pulling the diaphragm lightly up on exhalation to squeeze gently as much air as possible from the lungs. And breathe in and out through the nose, making the breath long and even without straining yourself. And as you do so, charge yourself up with universal life force, with prana, as you perform your deep breathing. Now, let us turn our focus into space and visualize a beam of scintillating white light entering the head, filling every cell of the brain. Try to feel and see this dynamic charge in the brain. Brilliant, scintillating, living white light. Draw this further down the neck, the shoulders, and into the heart chakra, which is situated just few inches front of the breastbone, within the aura, and fill this chakra with this scintillating white light. Let us now turn our focus beneath our feet to the earth, to this great, ancient intelligence who is providing us a wonderful classroom where we can learn essential experience, so that one day us too may walk through the glorious initiation of ascension. Request from this holy goddess, the violet flame. See this, feel this violet fire flowing up through the soles of your feet, up through the legs, the body, the head, the aura around you, and out into space. Beautiful, velvet, violet fire. Just allow yourself to be imbued in this beautiful flame. Try to feel this, see this, even hear it or smell it. Beautiful, protecting, cleansing violet flame. Now for this contemplation, which I'm going to read from the 9 freedoms on the initiation of ascension, you may want to keep your eyes closed and focus on the words, or watch the video we have put together of space, which is truly inspiring, or you may want to close your eyes and just take in the inspiring words, the eyewitness account of Dr. George King. I waited to see the Master from Venus, to take his place on the throne, but I should have known better, for one of such caliber needs no throne. Instead, the young Indian girl was led with gentle and loving care up to the great crystal chair, where she sat down. The lady attendants then took her small brown hands and crossed her wrist, laying her right palm over her heart and the left on the opposite side of her breast. Her large eyes never left the majestic, tall and radiant figure of the Master, whose beneficent countenance was lit up by a wonderful smile. Even from where I stood, I could see his blue eyes, blue like a cloudless summer sky. They held the depth of space itself. He advanced, stretched out his right hand, placing his thumb lightly on the center of the girl's forehead, extending his long fingers fan-wise above her shining black hair. No movement came from the gathering as he closed those wonderful eyes and slowly stretched his left arm sideways and upwards, and then slowly downwards again towards his heart. I watched in fascination, rooted to the spot by the magnificence of it all. Slowly, that white-clad arm moved and that glowing left hand came nearer and nearer to the spot over his heart. The young girl had closed her eyes now, seeming to be in a state of ecstasy. The profound silence of space itself settled over the whole assembly. They were all standing, eyes closed, faces immobile as though they were carved images. It was though time stood still, and the very axis of life itself waited for he, who in glorious radiance now stood motionless with his right hand still over the slim girl's head, and his left palm over his own heart. The large band of crystal jewels around the master's waist began to glow more brightly until they looked like tiny suns. The throne, too, began to gleam with an inner fire, which became brighter and brighter, until it was so brilliant it dazzled even my etheric eyes. The assembly of planetary beings were all gazing unflinchingly at the indescribable brilliant light. No terrestrial could have looked at it through physical eyes, even for 1 second, for such was the dazzling intensity of the brilliance, it would have blinded him instantly. The girl's physical body gradually became more and more hazy and mystic looking. I could dimly see now right through it. Then came a deep blue flash of light from the base of the spine upwards. When this reached her head, a golden fire was lighted there. Her physical body melted away completely until only her etheric remained. Then I gasped in genuine astonishment, for the saint from Venus, with eyes still closed, raised his right hand slowly, palm facing the high crystalline tube on the right hand of the dais. A streak of purple fire from his outstretched palm brought the tube into glowing life. Flesh upon flesh of brilliant colors blended and intermingled in that tube, some in long straight line, some in curves, waving like snakes as they curled about each other, winding and interwinding like live things. A bubbling, seething, living mess of ever-moving colors filled the gigantic tube, making it look like a kaleidoscope of the very gods themselves. Then came the music again. From out of the space around us, it seemed to ebb and flow like liquid as it penetrated the whole place with an equal intensity. There were no instruments visible, yet the music came, each note beautifully related to its neighbor, as if they were cells in the body of a perfect rhythmic whole. Perfume filled the air, gentle and alluring. It seemed to come from nowhere yet everywhere, simultaneously caressing the senses with a fragrant delicacy. It brought joy to my very soul. With one accord, the whole assembly broke into triumphant song of heavenly praise. At that moment, the girl stepped out of the long thin tube and stood gloriously radiant before us all. Every cell of her physical body had, during this ceremony, been broken down and then recreated before our very eyes. she was still the same small, fragile figure as before, but she now possessed a form which was beautiful to behold. Her calm, gentle expression, large, kindly brown eyes, and smooth olive skin, her long, glistening black hair flowing over her shoulders, and full-length white gown under which peeped her tiny feet, clad in jeweled sandals, made a picture that was exquisite and a sheer delight to look upon. For that young girl now, in her ascended body, had the beauty of purity, which is lasting. Now that clean feminine beauty was agelessness itself. No ravages of cruel time would ever bring one wrinkle across that perfect symmetry. So this initiation of ascension took place in space on a giant spacecraft called Satellite Number 3, which in fact is in orbit of our world right now. And as we heard, there was a large assembly of masters from this solar system and even beyond that. So it was a truly magnificent description. And Dr. George King was in a projected form, as we've heard. And in this description it said, a deep blue flash of light from her base of the spine came up to the head, and golden fire was lighted there. This is the rise of Kundalini, which is in the base of the spine, and it was risen up through the spine into Brahma chakra. And that young Indian girl went through the initiation of ascension. She took her physical body into ascension, broken up every molecule of that body, and built up a much, much finer body, a body which is now ageless. Truly wonderful. So who are these ascended masters? These are male and female masters who can live in their physical body, in their ascended body for hundreds of years. Thousands of years even. Quite extraordinary. The Master Jesus, after he resurrected or ascended, he also took on an ageless body and traveled around this world, visiting many countries to give his teaching for hundreds of years. So the ascended masters, together with other advanced masters, form the spiritual hierarchy of earth, also known as the Great White Brotherhood. And white does not refer to the color of these masters. In fact, they came from different ethnic backgrounds. The white color refers to the magic they perform. So what are the abilities of these ascended masters? They can, if they wish to, walk through walls. They can materialize, dematerialize quite easily. They could stand in a burning fire and not be hurt by it. They could even move a mountain should they wish to. These masters have completely mastered mind over matter. They have amazing clairvoyant abilities. They also give teaching to some of their students or some very advanced individuals, which is quite rare. There are some claims, many of them are untrue, but they do give some teachings to some advanced people. But generally speaking, although it is not common, they would mostly work through groups rather than individuals, such as the Aetherius Society. which was visualized by one of the members of the Great White Brotherhood. So let us now look at some of the examples of ascended masters. The first one is the Lord Babaji. This is a very ancient master who is the spiritual and political head of this order. In fact, he is 3,000 million years old in the same physical body. And Dr. King has met the Lord Babaji a number of times, and he said he looked 25 years old. It's quite extraordinary. This master is not an Earth master. He's from the planet Saturn, which is the most advanced planet in this solar system. And in this wonderful book, The Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, you'll find this picture or this drawing, which is illustrated in this book. And this is based on Yogananda's meeting with the Lord Babaji. And in this same book, there is an interesting story which I would like to share with you. When the Lord Babaji was sitting on a mountain with his disciples, a stranger climbed up who was in search of him for months, and he wanted to become Babaji's disciple. And he said that if he wasn't accepted, he would jump off that cliff. The Lord Babaji told him to jump because he couldn't accept him in his present state of development. So the man hurled himself off the cliff. Then the Lord Babaji instructed his disciples to fetch the stranger's body. He then placed his hand on a dead man who opened his eyes. And in fact, Dr. King did confirm this story. And he said that this disciple, after he was brought back to life, didn't have a full life, as it were, but those few years he spent in the presence of his master, the Lord Babaji, would have been a great karmic manipulation for him and possibly equaled many lives. The next master I would like to very briefly speak of is the Lord Maitreya. He's an extremely prominent member of the Great White Brotherhood. He's in fact second to the Lord Babaji. He is on the inner council of the Great White Brotherhood, and he also appears in writings of the Theosophical Society. The next master is the Master Saint Guling. Unfortunately, we don't have pictures of these masters. So Saint Guling is another prominent member of the Great White Brotherhood who is in the same physical body for thousands of years. He is the keeper of the Great Seal and also a member of the Executive Council of this order. Those who are a bit more familiar with the Theosophical Society's teachings would know that this is the master who in fact introduced each blessing in the 12 blessings and also each freedom in the 9 freedoms. And this was the master who visualized the Theosophical Society from Mount Shasta. It's quite extraordinary. And Dr. King also believed that the Theosophical Society too was brought about on the instructions of the Great White Brotherhood through people like Annie Besant, Madame Blavatsky and Leadbeater. The next master is Saint Germain. He's in fact a student of the Lord Maitreya, and Saint Germain crops up throughout history for hundreds of years, and he's in the same physical body. He's also known as Christian Rosicrucian, who is the founder of the mystical order of Rosicrucianism, and also known as Prince Rákóczi of Transylvania, and also by other names too. I would like to share some information which are based on records and also reports of people, so really they can't be taken as infallible, but they do paint a portrait of probably the most famous and of all the ascended masters, Count Saint Germain. He was ambidextrous. He could write the same article with both hands simultaneously, and when placed over each other, the writing on one sheet would be covered by the writing on the other. It's quite extraordinary. He was absolutely a truly inspiring poet who could write 2 different poems with both hands at the same time. He was an expert violinist, he wrote music, and also was a manufacturer of gems and a great alchemist who would prepare elixirs to improve people's health. And he also stated that he was a brother of the Great White Lodge, which we believe that he was referring to the Great White Brotherhood. Saint Germain was also one of the inspirers behind the steam locomotive, and Dr. King again confirmed it. He believed that the Great White Brotherhood have more than once inspired an invention which later turned out to be a great boon for humanity, even though the inventor may not have realized at that time that they were inspired. He also gave warnings of the impending French Revolution to Marie Antoinette, and Saint Germain spoke 11 languages with great fluency. So, very unusual Master Saint Germain. And finally, I would like to say a few words about Madame Blavatsky, who is in the spiritual hierarchy of Earth, but we don't know if she is an ascended master now. She was born in Russia in 1831 into an aristocratic Russian-German family and died in 1891. And she was reported to have unusual psychic abilities even as a child. For example, she could read people's thoughts with great precision. She could change the weight of furniture and also people. She must have had some fun, because at one time she would make a small table so heavy that her brother couldn't lift it. Then she would bring it back to its normal weight so her brother could pick it up with ease. Madame Blavatsky could also make objects appear and also transfer them from one place to another. So clearly she had some amazing abilities. She was a controversial and colorful figure, was called the Mother of the New Age, and a central figure in the founding of the Theosophical Society in New York in 1875. She also claimed contact with various advanced spiritual intelligences known as Mahatmas, such as Master El Roya and Master Kutumi. So very, very interesting examples of ascended masters and also a member of the spiritual hierarchy of Earth. But where do these masters live? They live beneath mountains mainly, in key locations around the world. And the reason because they don't live among us openly is because of our collective karma. We don't really deserve the presence of these masters just yet. And also, karmically, it would not be good, for example, if these masters would be laughed at or someone would try to hurt them. No one could cause them harm because they have great abilities to protect themselves. But karmically, it would be terrible for that individual or those individuals who would try to do this. So at the moment, these masters are working behind the scenes, working from retreats. So I would like to go through the retreats that they operate from. In America, we have 3 of these ones. First one is Grand Teton. Next one is Mount Shasta, and Saint Guling and Saint Germain both have very strong connections with this retreat. Then we move on to Castle Peak. Now this one is a relatively new retreat of the Great White Brotherhood. It was opened in the 1960s, and it is also a holy mountain. There are several holy mountains around the world, and you can find a list of those on our website. But if you visit them, like Castle Peak, then you could tune into the energy put into this mountain and quite easily send it out in healing, in upliftment to individuals or to the whole world. So the Great White Brotherhood also has a retreat in Egypt, Luxor. Then in Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, and this is a very, very popular mountain with tourists. but it's also a very significant retreat of the Great White Brotherhood. Then we move on to the Andes in South America, Himalayas in Tibet, and the Great White Brotherhood did have several retreats in the Himalayas at one time, but they are now moving from the Himalayas nearer to civilization. Just like to Ben Magdui, which is the next retreat, another fairly new retreat in modern civilization of the Great White Brotherhood. And you may find it interesting to know that this is the first retreat in the British Isles for 100,000 years. And finally, we move on to Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, we don't know which mountain the retreat is based in. And there are, of course, other lesser retreats of the Great White Brotherhood. These were the main ones. So now I would like to play you a short extract from a lecture by Dr. George King, which is entitled The Great White Brotherhood, the Spiritual Hierarchy of Ascended Masters, and this one was given on 15th of October 1964.
So here we have then retreats or sections, as the space people call them, in strategic parts of the world, magnetically strategic parts of the world. And these are mountains. Under these mountains there are huge buildings inhabited by these ascended masters, who can travel freely between section and section, either in one way or another, either in a physical form or in a dematerialized form. They travel freely. There is a constant interchange of intelligence between all these sections, and they have a predetermined assignment. And at the moment they are working rather undercover, holding the karma of the human race in a certain degree. Not taking it from your shoulders, don't think that, but holding it in abeyance, protecting you from many, many things which would normally befall you all at once. Radiating power and energies, collating information, advising, teaching, inspiring, occasionally, very, very occasionally, probably healing, lifting up, raising from the dead even, occasionally when this is necessary. More than once a master has died and has been risen from the dead by a member of a Great White Brotherhood to go on to finish his assignment, which took him another 2 or 50 years. It makes no difference. This has happened throughout the world.
So these masters can travel in physical bodies or in dematerialized form between these retreats. And each retreat has different functions. For example, in Ben Magdui, they engaged in monitoring and collecting information on all spiritual organizations on Earth. They also engaged in a spiritual energy outpouring. And Dr. King was invited to a festival which is performed, or one of the festivals which is performed by the Great White Brotherhood, which is the carrying of the light. And this is, as you can see, the booklet. It is written up in this booklet. This ancient ritual, which dates back about 100,000 or 200,000 years, in which about 600 ascended masters, male and female, take part in spiritual energy outpouring to the world. And it is a beautiful ritual. I recommend you to read it. Very, very interesting. Another special power manipulation that the Great White Brotherhood is engaged in is Operation Earthlight, and this one was devised by Dr. George King to transmit energies from certain chakras of Earth through specially designed equipment to the higher Devic kingdom. This was following the Mother Earth primary initiation. The energies are now being released by her, and they are increasing, and this mission was designed to assist, even in a small way, with this energy release. And this is altering conditions on Earth in a gradual manner, so that as many people as possible can adjust to the higher vibrations of the coming new age. And of course, the spiritual hierarchy are engaged in other missions too, which involves spiritual energy manipulation. And these masters have tremendous love for us all, and we owe them a great debt. Without them, we would not be able to stay on this planet. And this leads us to the second extract from this lecture by Dr. George King.
If the Great White Brotherhood was evacuated from Earth tonight, they won't be, but if they were, I would give the human race about 3.5 days, and that is not a guess. So the very presence of these beings on Earth guarantees certain conditions upon Earth for the mass of humanity. Remember what happened when the Lord Babiji, Lord of the Earth, the hierarchical master of the Great White Brotherhood, left this earth for a matter of a short time, a matter of 2 hours. Remember what happened? He had to be replaced by 2 other cosmic masters. Had he not been, God knows what karma would have befallen you. Or put it this way, your karma would have befallen you. Karma which Babiji and others is keeping in a balance and abeyance for you. Note that word, abeyance. Karma which, because of Babiji and others in the Great White Brotherhood, is being gradually rationed out to you, rather than you having the full repercussion at once, which would cause madness, severe illness, severe and ghastly mutation, death to the human race. No doubt. There is no doubt about this. And I'm not guessing, neither am I giving you the opinion of an earthman. The main thing, I feel, the main action of the Great White Brotherhood is being the Great White Brotherhood. If they don't do another thing but just be what they are doing a fantastic service for humanity as a whole. Just being themselves.
Wasn't that just wonderful? It just really shows the great debt we owe to these wonderful masters who are staying on this planet so we can go through our experience cycles and help us. Although limited by karma, but they do their very best, as they help us as much as it possibly can within the karmic law to also go within, be inspired by our higher selves, and gradually through lives of experience so that we can too go through ascension. So how can we help them? We need to change in our ways. We need to rise above us. I'm talking about whole of humanity. We need to rise above hate and jealousy and stop fighting. Can you imagine a world, how wonderful it would be if there was no war, if people lived in harmony and had love for one another. After all, we come from the same source, from the Absolute, and we are making our journey back to that same source. So we need to change in our ways. How can we do that? Voluntary work, charitable work, outpouring of spiritual energy. That is a great help, especially during this spiritual push, when satellite number 3 is in orbit of our world, pouring down potentized energy. For anyone who is engaged in an unselfish or spiritual action, it will be potentized 3,000 times. It's really a holy time for us to make the most of this spiritual energy downpouring. So let us just do that. If you wish to join in, raise the hands as such and visualize white light flowing down through you and out through the palms of the hands where we have chakras, psychic centers, and also out through the heart chakra. Just visualize a brilliant, scintillating white light flowing through you now as we offer our thankfulness, first of all, to the spiritual hierarchy of earth. Almighty Parabrahma, we now request that your wondrous power may flow through us in great abundance to the spiritual hierarchy of earth. For these glorious masters stayed upon this world to help us, to inspire us, to guide us, so that us too may be able to experience the wonderful initiation of ascension. May these holy masters be imbued in thy eternal love and light at this very moment. And we pray, O wondrous Parabrahma, that which created all life, that may the power of love and light energy flow through us now to the whole world. And just visualize the whole planet filled with this scintillating white light, so that humanity may be inspired by this, may be inspired to reach upwards, go in and reach upwards to the spark which shines within them so brightly. May they be inspired by this and act by this. Act by their intuition, which is always right, which will always lead us to truth, to goodness. Just visualize this power flowing out to every single living person upon this planet. And now, open the eyes and let's perform an ancient mudra or hand sign, brushing the right palm against the left away from you, signifying that we have completed our spiritual practice. And you can do this after your meditation, after your prayers, after your healing. It's a wonderful way to detach. Thank you very much for joining in. So let us now see if there are any questions. Fortunately, I can't see any of them coming through. I think could be a little technical issue. But I mentioned earlier the spark of divinity within us all. We are our true self, our higher self is the spirit, which is part of the Absolute. And the rest of us and everything, our body, even our soul, is made up of prana or universal life force. And we use this body to go through experience. Just as this building is going through experience, just as the trees, the mountains, the rivers and the seas, the animal kingdom and the mineral kingdom, they too go through experience. Life is wonderful. And we've got a wonderful teacher called karma. It's a very, very positive thing, karma, because it's helping us to learn. If we look at life as an experience, if we try to see lessons in life, we'll be able to move on to further experiences until we have reached the pinnacle of advancement, of our advancement on this planet, and we too be able to move on to another planet, or if we choose to stay on this planet in an ascended body. It's a wonderful cycle of life which does not stop, even from other worlds, which I mentioned earlier. We go on even higher experience cycles. From the planets I've mentioned, the further planets are Venus and also Uranus, and then Saturn. And it's really, truly wonderfully and fully described in a Nine Freedoms book. I highly recommend you to read it. Very, very inspirational. Raising your consciousness to something great than ourselves, something higher than ourselves, and we'll be inspired by it. And great wisdom will be ours. So I would like to now recommend you a couple of lectures that you might find, I'm sure you'll find fascinating to listen to, by Dr. George King. One of them is The Great White Brotherhood, the Spiritual Hierarchy of Earth. And also another one, The Levels of Consciousness, Part 2, which is The Realms of the Masters. And we also have an online 12 Blessings service coming up at 8 o'clock, just after this event. So I invite you to join in, and where you'll be joining together with like-minded people to send out wonderful spiritual energy to our world through the practice of the 12 blessings. And if you don't have the book and you don't know the prayers, you could just join in silently. Just visualize white light, as we just did earlier. Visualize white light flowing through you, out through the palms of the hand and out through the heart chakra. Or you could sign up and download the prayer sheet and join in with the prayers. Well, thank you very much once again for tuning in to this King Yoga Experience evening. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at noemi@aetherius.org or info@aetherius.co.uk. Or if you have any experiences that practices with it you would like to share with us, please get in touch. Thank you very much once again for tuning in, and God bless you all.